Hello everyone, welcome back to the chapter of geometry in ESAT M1 Mathematics. I'm going to divide this entire lecture into two parts. In the first section, we will revise the basics of Euclidean geometry and bearings, and in the second section, we will do mensuration and basic trigonometry along with initial ideas of vectors and so on. So let us begin this portion on Euclidean geometry. Now, these are things that you know already, like you have studied these in middle school, but still there are some topics we need to revise because they are given in the syllabus. So let us start with the basic definitions. A point is basically a one-dimensional object. Okay, it is an exact location. It has no size. A line is infinitely long and one-dimensional. It is basically a collection of points placed one after the other. Parallel lines never intersect. They are denoted by this symbol. So here is an illustration of parallel lines. Perpendicular lines meet at 90 degrees, denoted by this symbol. Parallel lines never intersect. That is true. But there are more lines in mathematics that can be defined as never intersect. For example, asymptotes also do not touch each other. But the difference between asymptotes and parallel lines is that parallel lines are always a fixed distance apart. Okay, asymptotes and the graph get infinitely closer to each other. So although they never meet, there is a subtle difference between the two. Then we move on to polygons. So what is a polygon? A polygon is a closed figure made of straight lines. For an n-sided polygon, the sum of interior angles is given as n minus 2 into 180. In some books, you will find this written as 2n minus 4 times 90 degree as well, because they want students to remember it as 2n minus 4 right angles. It's the same thing. You bring the 2 outside, multiply to 90, you will get n minus 2 times 180. If a polygon is regular, so a regular polygon means all sides and all angles are equal. So if all sides and all angles are equal, then this total sum of polygons can be divided into n parts for each equal angle. So each interior angle of a regular polygon becomes n minus 2 into 180 by n. Then you have the exterior angle. Be very careful. Exterior angle is not the same as the reflex angle. So if this is a vertex of a polygon, this will be its reflex angle. And if you extend the line further and take the supplementary angle, this will be the exterior angle. So exterior angles of any polygon add up to 360. If it's a regular polygon, then you can divide each exterior angle by n because all the interior angles are equal. So their supplement should also be equal. Therefore, each exterior angle should be 360 by n. For triangles, the two important things that you should know is sum of all three angles is 180 and the exterior angle is equal to sum of two interior opposite angles. Opposite. Okay, because on the same side you will get supplementary angles. For parallel lines, co-interior angles are supplementary. So these two angles are supplementary. Corresponding angles are equal. So these two angles are equal. These two angles are equal. These two angles are equal. Here, these angles are also equal. Alternate angles are equal, so that means these will be equal, those will be equal. Any line cutting two or more parallel lines is known as a transversal. Okay, so if there is one more parallel line and there is one more transversal, then these two sections are equal. That is known as equal intercept theorem. Okay, all theorems of basic geometry are included in this syllabus. So, well, technically it is not part of the text of the syllabus, but if any theorem makes your calculations a bit faster or the sum a bit easier, why not follow it? Then we move on to special triangles or quadrilaterals. A very short definition of each one of them. Isosceles triangle has two sides equal. Their opposite angles will be equal. The median of an isosceles triangle is also its perpendicular bisector. Same with equilateral triangle. All sides are equal. All angles are equal. Again, the median is the perpendicular bisector. Moving on to quadrilaterals. The first weird shape we encounter is a kite. A kite can be basically defined as two isosceles triangles stacked on top of each other. It has two pairs of adjacent sides and perpendicular diagonals. The longer diagonal bisects the shorter diagonal. Also remember that the figure is symmetric around the longer diagonal, which means that the two triangular halves, right and left side of the longer diagonal, are equal. So the longer diagonal also bisects the angles it passes through. A trapezium has one pair of parallel sides. The others could be equal or may not be equal. If they are equal, the figure is known as an isosceles trapezium. The area of a trapezium is given as half into sum of parallel sides into height. For rhombus, all sides are equal, but all angles are not equal. Diagonals are not equal, but they bisect each other perpendicularly. The area of the rhombus is given as half d1 into d2. A square is also a type of a rhombus, right? Because for a square also you have all these properties existing. So we can use the formula for the area of a rhombus as the formula for the area of a square as well. Since in a square the diagonals are equal, we can say that the area of a square with respect to its diagonals is half diagonal square. This will help you calculate the area of a square much faster. When the diagonal is given, you wouldn't have to solve the equation of side times square root 2 is equal to diagonal, then figure out the side and then do side square. It can be done directly by this formula. Now we will talk about congruence. So I think I have listed all the conditions here. One is missing. So for congruence, you have triple S, all sides equal, SAS, two sides and the included angle between them. ASA, angle side angle. AAS also works, angle angle side. And then you have RHS, right angle hypotenuse and one side. Of course, SSA is not valid, and AAA or AA prove similarity only. For similarity, triple S will devolve into the proportionality and not the equality. When we are talking about triple S in similarity, that means all three sides are proportional to each other. For SAS, it would mean two sides are proportional to each other and the angle between them is equal. When we are looking into AAA, that means all three angles are equal to each other. All the cases where you could apply AAA can also be done by using AA, because if two angles of a triangle are equal, then the third has to be equal. Why? Because sum of three angles is 180. If two of them are equal, the third one will be 180 minus the sum of both, and they are equal, so the third angle is equal. When you are solving problems in ESAT, you need to finish the problems as fast as possible. So you need not wait for confirmation that all three angles are equal. As soon as you find two angles are equal, you can assume similarity by AA. Now some very simple transformations. If you reflect something on the y-axis, the x coordinate changes from plus to minus. If you reflect it in x-axis, the y coordinate changes from plus to minus. If you reflect it in the origin, both of them change. You know, when you were taught how to calculate inverses of functions, you were told that switch the variables and then make y the subject of the formula. Even if you are not calculating the inverse of a function, you take any random coordinate point, you reflect it in x equal to y, you will see that the x and y variables switch. So this has a nice link to advanced algebra. We will do that when we start our M2 chapters. Pythagoras theorem in two dimensions. In two dimensions, it is said that for a right angle triangle, base square plus side square is equal to hypotenuse square. In three dimensions, this can be extended as well. You will get length square plus width square plus height square is equal to diagonal square. Now this will be the space diagonal. There are two types of diagonals in cuboids. One is a face diagonal and the other is a space diagonal. Look around your room, in the wall in front of you, try to draw a diagonal. That will be your face diagonal because that is on one face of the room. You can also draw a diagonal across the room to the vertex behind your head. You will find that the diagonal will still be there, but it will be not on any particular face. It will travel through the space in the room. That is why it is known as the space diagonal. So there will be a sum at the end of this chapter that relates face diagonals to space diagonals. It is a very nice problem. We'll do it in part 2. Let's talk about circles now. So a few basic definitions of properties of circles. Chord is a line segment joining 2 points on the circumference. Remember, it's a line segment. If I change this to line, it becomes a secant. Then you have a tangent that touches the curve at exactly 1 point, the curve or the circle. Sector is an area bounded by 2 radii and the arc. Segment is the area bounded by a chord and the arc. In M2, we will learn the sine rule, which will help us in simplifying this formula. A few circle theorems. Angle at the center is twice the angle at circumference. Angle in a semicircle is a right angle. Angles in the same segment are equal. Angles in the same segment are equal, which means on the same chord, if you are taking two angles in the major segment, they should be equal, or two angles in the minor segment, they will also be equal. Alternate segment says tangent chord angle is equal to angle in alternate segment. So this one is a bit confusing. I will try to draw the diagram for you. So this becomes your major segment and this becomes your minor segment, right? If I take the angle here in the minor segment, then this will be equal to the angle here in the alternate segment. The angle here would be equal to this angle. So this is the alternate segment theorem. Okay, this can save you a lot of time. Tangent radius relation, we know that the tangent is perpendicular to the radius at the point of contact. Also, the perpendicular to the tangent passes through the radius. So this theorem works both ways. In a cyclic quadrilateral, you have all 4 vertices of the quadrilateral to lie on the circle and opposite angles add up to 180. A few definitions on 3D geometry, not because you have 3D geometry in the syllabus, but because you could need them in the topic of mensuration. So what are faces? Faces are flat surface of a polyhedron. What is a polyhedron? It's the 3D version of a polygon. The face should be a polygon. A surface is the entire outside of a 3D figure. A surface could be straight or curved. Figures like cuboids will have straight surfaces and cylinders, cones, spheres, hemispheres will have curved surfaces. So that's why you have total surface area and curved surface area separately. An edge is a straight line segment joining 2 adjacent faces. A diagonal is a straight line joining 2 non-adjacent vertices. Remember this, non-adjacent. If it's adjacent, then it will become an edge. A vertex is a point where 2 or more edges of a polyhedron meet, or the pointy end of a cone or a pyramid. There is a theorem relating all of these that is known as Euler's theorem on polyhedron. So that says vertices plus faces minus edges is equal to 2. You don't need the proof of this, but sometimes in ESAT there are these puzzle type problems in the last few questions where you need a bit more time than usual. So if you can use this formula to calculate anything faster. Now we have to study the most important concept in this chapter, which is bearings. Now bearings is weird because it goes against the conventional measurement system that we have learned. So bearing is basically a way of writing directions from one point to the other. Okay, but you measure it from the north line clockwise. Earlier it used to be measured from the pole star Venus. Nowadays we use the magnetic north as reference. So if nothing is given, the top of the page is taken as north. Okay, and north is 0 degrees. The bearings go from 0 all the way up to 359 because at 360 degree you essentially come the full circle. Bearings are still used nowadays. I'll show you an example and then I'll give you a sum. Okay, so look at this example. The bearing of B from A is 070. Find the bearing of A from B. Now whenever you have a problem like this, check this diagram out. Whenever you have a question like this, find the bearing of some point from another point. First figure out the point of reference. So here the bearing of B from A. That means we have to figure out a point of reference. As soon as you figure out the point of reference, draw the north line because you are going to measure the angle with respect to that. Normally, we measure the angle with respect to the east line or the positive x-axis and measure anti-clockwise. Here we will draw the north line and measure clockwise. Okay, so bearing of B from A should be here and B should be there. This angle is 70. Find the bearing of A from B. You will take this second point as a point of reference and do not measure this angle because you have to go clockwise from the north. So you have to measure this reflex angle. Basically, if you have this angle, then this angle should be supplementary to it, right? Because two north lines are parallel to each other and coincident angles are supplementary. Remember, that's why we revise the concepts on parallel lines. So if coincident angles are supplementary, if this is 70, then this should be 110. What is the reflex angle of 110? That should be 250. That's your answer. Okay, this diagram was not related to this question, but still it would have helped, so I put it there. Okay, of course you will not get a question as easy as this, but still the concepts apply. Try this question, please. Okay, I hope you solved it. So let's see the question. A ship S is 10 km from a lighthouse L, and the bearing of S from L is 120. So L is supposed to be my first point of reference, and I will draw 120 degree from the north line at L. A yacht Y is 10 km from S. Okay, and the bearing of Y from S is 250. So something like this, 250. Calculate the bearing of Y from L. The most important thing is drawing the diagram. This is the diagram that you will need to draw. See, from L you have S at 120 bearing. This is the north line. This is the north line. From S you have Y at 250 bearing. This is the north line and this is 250. So this distance is given as 10 km and this distance is given as 10 km. That makes LSY an isosceles triangle. Okay, so now I have to figure the bearing of Y from L. So L is the point of reference. I have to figure out this entire angle. Now I know that this little portion MLS is 120. So I need to find SLY and then add those two together. I'll get my answer. So angle LSN should be coincident angle. That means it should be 60 because 120 plus 60 is 180. This angle is going to be 250. This angle is 60. So these two totally make 310. If they make 310, then this angle should be 50. If that angle is 50, then you have sum of three angles in a triangle is 180. So these two should add up to 130. That means each of these angles should be 65 each. Then the total angle MLY would be 120 plus 65, which is equal to 185. You can see the theoretical calculation here. I have explained the logic. I hope you have solved this question and noted its solution. This is a very standard problem. I have taken it from the official study material. The problem with these questions is not the calculation. The problem is that you will have to draw a diagram. And drawing a diagram takes time. So try to keep these questions for the end, if possible. The next problem I'll show you as an example because it is way too easy. And it also illustrates that trigonometry could also be a part of these geometry problems. Remember, although we are doing the course chapter wise, you won't get the questions chapter wise. The questions will still be mixed. So here is a mixed problem. The point X is 10 km from Z on a bearing of 060. So north line, X is 10 kilometers away. Y is due north of Z. That means Y lies somewhere on the north line. Y is also on a bearing of 270 from X. So from X, you take 270 bearing. Now there are fixed bearings that you should know. 90 degree is the east, 180 degree is south, and 270 degree is the west. Okay, so I know that this is exactly to the west of X, which pinpoints the location of Y here. Find the exact value of the distance XY. Now I know the hypotenuse, I know one angle, I can easily find XY. Just use sine theta. So sine 60 is equal to perpendicular by hypotenuse. So your answer will be 5 root 3. Okay, this problem was not difficult, but this introduced a few new concepts to us. The application of trigonometry and this phrase due north. This means it is located somewhere on the north line. You will have to use the reference of one more point to triangulate its position. I'll end this recording here. Watch out for section 2 where we will do the remaining part of geometry starting with mensuration. If you need help with any chapters of ESAT or TMUA, please check the link in the description. You can book a class with me and clear it up. If you need more practice, do check out my books from the Amazon links in the description or the pinned comment. With that being said, I'll end this video here. Thank you for joining and I'll see you in part 2 where we'll start with mensuration.